Good morning, traders. Today is Tuesday, February 15th. My name is Charles, and this is the Pirate Traders live stream. The Pirate Traders live stream. Yeah. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Interesting little Tuesday morning we've set ourselves up for here. So yesterday's trade, all in all, to me was bearish. The reason being that we started a new trend down of value being overlapping to lower and then lower yesterday. So that is a sign of a new, new momentum to the downside. So that is a little bit bearish to see. We also tried to explore prices above this node that we had created in the overnight the night before and could not get above it, which was resistance. Then we got the massive sell-off in the middle of the day and recovered back up into the range. So to me, this is just a big bell-shaped curve, and it was just a sign of acceptance of these lower prices. So this morning, we are opening with a gap up, which is unexpected, right? We would think if we're starting a bearish move to the downside, we wouldn't have a gap up in the overnight. But I'm very cautious to trust this gap up just because of the exactness of where they found resistance. As soon as they pushed into the previous balancing area, they found resistance at the base of the H period single prints and then pulled right back out. So that is a look in and fail of the balance area. So that's a little bit bearish to see. And the exactness of where they found resistance is also a sign of short-term traders rather than bigger money investors trying to get in up here. So that to me is kind of weak to see. So the first order of business this morning is going to be the gap fill. That is the market from wherever it opens, trading down to yesterday's high. That's the first thing I'm watching for. And I am expecting a counter auction to the downside, as most of the overnight inventory would have been net long to get us from down here to up here. So the first order of business is a counter auction to the downside, trying to fill the gap. Where they find support will tell us, give us more insights moving forward. Do they find support at yesterday's high or anywhere above it? Finding support anywhere above yesterday's high and getting continuation higher is bullish as a gap and go, as well as if they trade down to yesterday's high, find support in there. That is also bullish for a gap and go, and I would just monitor for continuation to the upside, keeping in mind that there will be resistance at these two single prints up here, just like there was in the overnight. But if we get the gap fill and the market continues to sell off, we do not find support around yesterday's high, I would short that for continuation to retest yesterday's low and then even further as a way of dipping back into a previous balance area, right? It's quite common when you step back into a previous balancing area, you trade to the opposite end of balance. Didn't happen this time, which is what is weird about this gap up that we're getting in the overnight. That's what's kind of unusual about it, is we should have traded straight to the opposite end of balance, and we didn't. So anyway, if they can find support somewhere above yesterday's high, I'd go long. If they cannot, I'll go short. Simple as that. Market opens in 1 minute. Good morning, Diego. Good morning, Cyrus. FRM, Philip in the house. Chris Yee is here. David Glass, good morning to you. Scooball is here. Jimmy Woo, good to see you. Laser, hello, hello. Ronald is here. Dean back with us. John is with us. The Knob in the house. And the market is open. All right, so that green arrow is your gap, and the first order of business is filling that gap. One way to play a gap fill is when the market pushes above, you sell as it passes back through that opening price and put your stop above. This one seems a little bit tight, but that is one strategy for playing a gap. Good morning, MW, Rev, Sanju, Nunez, and Ranjan. Welcome to all of you. All right, this feels like a bit of a fake out to me. I don't know they've had enough time to absorb the overnight inventory. So I wouldn't trust a long trade here. But if they pull back down to the opening price and they find support this time around, that would interest me as a potential gap and go, but not yet. So this is what I mean by the odds of needing to get a counter auction. We're still above positive 1,000 on both indices on the ticks right now. And I've just never in my entire life seen a day where it stays up there. So it has to pull back down and absorb some of this activity. So I'm cautious when I see that it hasn't had a chance to do that yet. Do not trust along here. Wow. Okay. Well, the short covering got us back up into the previous balance. But once again, I'll just repeat, do not trust this move. This is highly emotional, short covering. I wouldn't trust a long until they retest that opening price once again. That's a question mark. It's not a very good looking one. But I swear it was a question mark. There we go. Okay, we got multiple levels in here with less than 100 contracts. In here, or less than 200, I'm sorry, contracts. Those are in need of backfilling. So whenever I see that, it makes a note to myself. Hey, man, don't trust the market to take off here. It still needs to do some backfilling. Trading Donkey, we got within a couple points of the 200 daily SMA. Do you mean this morning? Like we found support there? All right. Well, now we're starting to absorb the counter auction a little bit. Finally, some of the longs from the overnight are taking profits. So here's where we start to look for support. Finding it anywhere above yesterday's high is bullish. The first potential stop in my mind is going to be right around the opening price. But I won't fight the gap and go if they find support above there. Ronald, if you're saying you're short with a stop at 57.50 or you're short at 57.50, I was going to say a stop at 57.50 is way too tight. But now I'm realizing you're saying short. Never mind. As you were. Continue what you're doing. Alex, we're filling single prints from the 11th. Yeah, I mean, that's what the overnight did. It exactly came up to the base of the single prints. First set found resistance, second set found resistance, 2 ticks above the base of the single prints. So, yeah, that's what they did in the overnight, which is why I don't trust the move. Because that would have been short term traders targeting those levels. And if they're short term, they got to take profit. But so far, it appears we have new buyers stepping in. So this is bullish to see. Can they hold it up here? If we can find support around the opening price, around 44, man, 44.40, that number is a plague. We keep coming back to it. If we can find support around 44.40, that's still a gap and go. That's still a good, strong way to open the day. Or anywhere above it. All right. Well, I'm cautiously bullish here, which means I'm willing to go long, but with very, very tight stops. And I'm certainly not going to fall in love with it. But they're bringing in buyers up here at a higher price, which is a gap and go. So we're testing the first resistance right here at 44.60, which was that first set of single prints we left behind. Next potential resistance is 44.6750, which is the base of the next set of single prints. So we're looking for this node here to now act as support as we trade down in it. It just did a few minutes ago. Remember, if you're going to go long, tight stops. If this support breaks right here, we'll head back down to that area around the opening price. So we need this to hold if we're going to get any substantial continuation higher. Harry P. feeling bearish. Yeah, I have to disagree. I don't feel bearish. There's so much room at this point above the gap. If this node fails, we've got the node around the opening price. If that fails, we got yesterday's high. Anywhere the market finds support in here is bullish. Gap and goes send you a signal. This green arrow is sending you a signal that there are bulls in the market. So we can find support. Okay, well, that first support is breaking, so now we're heading back to the opening price. And I'm going to go back to a neutral stance. But it's not bearish on a gap and go ever until you get below the previous high. That's when things feel bearish, is below this price. But finding support anywhere in here is bullish. And often the start of a trend day higher begins with a gap. So for example, if the market were to pull back down, find support around the opening price, and then continue back up again, we could go up all day long off of that momentum. Just something to think about. But of course, there's nothing wrong with trading from this node down to this. If you wanted to short the failure here and target going long here or monitoring a short for continuation, you can do that. Screwball NQ a little more bearish. NQ also got a gap up. it looks like they need to pull down to yesterday's high. So around 14,394. Looking for support there. Wise Owl, welcome to the stream. For the ES, I'm in 1 tick increments. For the NQ, I'm in 2 tick increments. Okay, new sellers starting to try to pile on. Trying to fill that gap. But they're not getting much for it, are they? The buyers are waiting to just slap them in the face. Slapped again. Okay, so we came down, we backfilled those levels that only had 100 contracts on them. And now the market is beginning to build support around this 47 level. So now we're asking ourselves, can this hold? Are there enough buyers here to take another stab at getting into the previous balance area? Can they do it? Trading Donkey, how did I fix the ES single tick thing? I did not. do anything. Uh, I have no explanation. I just randomly noticed that again today as well. No clue. Wise Owl, I've been lurking quiet for a while. I have found trading with the TPO to organize the data helps tremendously with overtrading. Yep, that is very common, what I hear. Also helps with people managing their emotions, right? If you're just watching the candlesticks, this feels scary as hell. But if you're watching the TPOs, you can see where the volume was earlier on this morning. So you're not really that worried about a small pullback, as you know there's some support waiting at the opening price, so on and so forth. It helps with managing emotions, for sure. All right, so it looks like this node around 47 is going to break. So the next support is right, well, now we're in it, is right around the opening price, 44.40-ish. Looking for support in there. If that breaks, if the low, the A period low breaks, that is shortable as a gap fill. But again, the same way I said earlier with a long trade, I'd be very cautious. I'd have a tight stop because the market can find support somewhere inside the gap. But if the lows break, we do need to start trying to fill the gap. So tricky moment here. Long if we get support, short if we break. Ronald, is the tick chart the same as the cumulative tick chart or calculated differently? I think it is the cumulative tick chart. So there's an indicator you can put on this chart called the cumulative tick that you can buy through Shadow Trader. So I'm not sure if that's what you're referring to, the indicator that specifically is called cumulative tick. But the tick chart is, combining all of the stocks in the NYSE. So I don't really know how to answer that question. But anyway, it's just called tick, T-I-C-K. That's should be on any charting platform. Design Knob feels like we got to go visit Pappy before we go upstairs. I I don't know. I mean, Pappy's like a massive sell off. To me, a gap fill is never a massive sell off. Like, even if it's a big gap, I still don't see it as bearish to fill the gap. But we'll see. We'll see if this opening price can hold that 44.40 level. So they created a little poor high here in the NQ. We often get a push away from a poor high, but then come back at some point later to repair it. So that does give us a target to the upside. Nor Auto Trader, welcome to you. Good to see you. All right, well, we got good taper on the low. I don't love the 27 contracts, but it's acceptable taper and acceptable excess on the low. So if the bulls are going to take charge here, they should find support and start pushing higher. Well, both times today we pushed below the zero line. The market got slapped in the face and pushed right back above. That is a sign of buyers up here at these higher prices. This is beginning to feel like acceptance. We've got value higher. We've got good excess, good taper on the low. Got the ticks pretty much staying above the zero line. Every single one of those things is bullish. So it seems like this level that was acting as support, the 46, 47 area, is now acting as resistance. Getting through that to the upside would get me bullish once again. Looking to buy support. There they go. Okay, so now I'm looking to buy support once again, as long as we stay above the A period low. As long as we don't start to fill that gap again, I think the continuation is back up into the previous balance. Looking for resistance at 44.6750. Screwball, it is still a resistance. Yeah, you're right. We didn't quite break through it, but I think we will. Screwball and downtrend on the ticks. Yeah, but they've also been getting slapped. There you go. They get every time the ticks get below the zero line, they're getting pushed back above. So that's a sign of buyers. The fact that that keeps happening. Just haven't quite brought in enough to break through the resistance just yet. So we dip back down, we bring in some more, we try again. We dip down, bring in some more, we try again. And eventually, either the resistance up here at 47.48 breaks and we get a push higher, or the lows break and we start to fill the gap. Design knob NQ in a 60-point range. What is this nonsense? Yeah, it's pretty tight. Pretty tight little morning for the Q. Yeah, they got a lot of resistance to work through above. They got to push through it. Still need to repair that poor high as well on the Q. Is that, Screwball, is yours the counter banner trade or the go with the banner trade? Because this is right about where we were when I put it up, so you'd be break even right now. Whereas I put up the banner and then put my buy order in at support, so I could get in at a good location, not the second that I felt bullish. But I know you're kidding. Screwball totally its opposite banner. Well, then it would have been a good trade this time. You would have gotten in and immediately sold off. Insane. My only Valentine's kiss is with the stop loss line. Oh no. No. Yeah, I mean, this morning's being kind of annoying with us. They're toying with us, but they're going to break one way or another. We're either going to head back up into balance or we're going to head down to fill the gap. There'll be lots of money to be made whichever direction the market breaks. So if you find yourself getting whipsawed, that's your signal. I don't trade this market. I don't trade this uncertainty. I wait for the clearer signal, breaking the lows or starting to push up above the resistance here. One way or the other. I will say I am losing confidence the more time we spend grinding here. A gap and go, what makes it so powerful is the FOMO of it, right? The like, people wake up in the morning, they see the market is higher, and they feel like they missed their chance to buy in. And so they start buying every little dip. Every time the market pushes higher, they buy that dip. It pushes higher again, they buy that dip, so on and so forth. And you get this really strong trend because the momentum, the excitement. But the more time we spend just grinding around here, the more we lose that excitement, that momentum. And then the idea of the gap fill becomes more and more prominent. So we do need to get the push higher here very soon. I would say at the very least in the C period. Or we will get a pullback. Also still have that poor high we've left unrepaired on the NQ as well. So need to get up there and get that repaired. Otherwise, it's the push away that's controlling the market, and that would be bearish. As a push away from a poor high should get bought up in a strong market. And then you get the repair. All right, one last test of the support around 4440. Can it hold again? Can we slap those ticks in the face once more? Remember that every time they pull down and find support and then come back up, they're poking away. You can think about this resistance like it's a semi-permeable membrane. The more times you poke at it, the weaker and weaker it gets. So as long as they keep finding support down here and then instantly heading back up to poke at it, the higher probability is the break to the upside. But like I said, we really need to get through there because the more time we spend failing, the more we're poking at the downside support as well. Poke, poke, poke. So we really want this sucker to break. In order to keep us bullish throughout the day. There we go. All right, so the market remains bullish. I'm looking for a repair of the poor high on the NQ, and I'm looking for us to head up and test the resistance at 44.6750 on the ES. Screwball, but Gap is a strong magnet at morning too, and sellers still didn't get what they want. Yeah. Well, that's why Gap and Goes are so potent, because everyone is looking at the gap fill. They're all looking for the market to pull down. So that's why you get such a slingshot movement to the upside, because they're all caught off guard. Right? They're not long, or they might even be short for the gap fill. Either way, it causes momentum to the upside. So that's what gives it its potency. Exactly. Panic switching and FOMO buying. The combination of the two. Okay, we just pulled the POC a little bit higher. That's slightly bullish to see. So now we're expecting support around the area where we had resistance, 47.48. Looking for support in there for continuation to the upside. If you are not a member of the brigade, I highly recommend joining. It only costs $10 a month. There's a link in the description. It would be the second link down. And you get to hang out and chat about these ideas all day. So if you're not a member, consider it. It's only $10. And if you are a member, head on over to the private stream, and we'll see you there. Alex, exactly. Buying when there's a gap below indicates how confident the buyers are. Exactly. They are strong hands buyers. They are early adopters. And then the people who have to cover their shorts or FOMO in, those are the late majority who were just late to the party. All right. Thank you guys very much. Heading over to the private stream. Have a great rest of your day. Oh, if you don't mind smashing the like on your way out, that'd be appreciated. A little thumbs up action. Okay, bye.